Good morning and welcome to YouTube channel of Lucky Institute of Professional Studies. Today we are going to study about types of keys in database management system. So first let us understand about what is database. When we talk about the word database, we means that there will be collection of n number of tables. It will be collection of n number of tables. Now what do we mean by tables? Tables are collection of records. That means we have rows and columns in a table. We will be having rows and columns in which all our data will be stored. This will be collection of records. Rows are also called as records or tuples in a table. So why do we actually need rows, records or tuples? When I say we have collection of tables in a database, then when we talk about any kind of rows or records, I want all my data to be identified uniquely in my table. It should be identified uniquely. By uniquely, we mean that all rows should have at least one, or table should have at least one attribute which can uniquely identify my tuple. Let's take an example of an employee table. Now in employee table we have various fields like employee ID, employee name, department ID. Now I want to change salary of any employee by taking department ID, and if I say that change the salary of department ID E101 to 30,000, let's say. Either I want to change the salary or I want to change contact number or I want to add any field like I want to change. So when it will be searched in the database, employee ID 101, we have 3 people with employee ID 101. So now what will happen? It will change contact number of all these three IDs which we don't want. So basic usage of key is we need to identify a tuple uniquely so that we can maintain integrity of our database. So this is the basic need. Why do we need to have a key? So now we have different type of keys here. We are going to discuss about super key, candidate key, primary key, alternate key, composite key, foreign key and unique key. Let's start with super key. In this table, what is super key basically? Super key is set of keys which uniquely identify a tuple in the table. Now, when we are calling it a superset, in which we can have set of keys. When we can have set of keys, that means it can be either a single key or we can have combination of keys. With this table, if we say what is a super key in this table, then we can have employee ID, we can have employee name with department, and we can also have contact number with this. Because when we are saying that super key is set of keys, that means we can have multiple keys at the same time and it will become a set of keys. But again, the important point is it should uniquely identify the tuple. Uniquely identify. So if we have 2 people with same employee name, employee ID will help us to change that, to recognize that which one is unique tuple. Then when it is uniquely identified, the second thing in primary super key is that it can have any of the attribute can have null value in it. Like when I am taking the combination employee name, department ID and contact number, this contact number can have null value because it might be possible that time I am not having contact number of any of the employee. Even if I add email ID in this, email ID can also be empty, it can have null value. So super key is subset of keys It is subset of keys. It uniquely identifies. It can have null values, and it may contain extraneous attributes. Extraneous attributes means it can be employee ID with employee name, employee ID with department ID, or employee ID, employee name, and employee department ID. Next, let us come to candidate key. Now, candidate key is minimal set of super keys. Let us understand. It is minimal set of keys. How we will get this? When I have a set of super key, then if I remove the extra elements from that set, I can get candidate key. Again, candidate key can be more than one in any table or a set. For example, I can take employee ID as a candidate key, or it can be employee ID and employee name, which can be a set of key. Then if I say employee ID, employee name and department, now when I talk about these two sets, there is no extra element because this can be a combination of keys which uniquely identify. So when I am adding this department, it is one of the extra attribute, and it can also have null value. So when we remove this from the set of super key, then we get set of candidate keys, because it is a minimal set in which we are removing extra attributes. So it is minimal set of keys. So candidate key in this table can be employee ID, it can be employee ID, employee name. There can be n number of sets. It can also be employee ID and unique employee head ID. There can be many sets in this. So minimal super keys are candidate keys. Next, coming about primary key, it's the most important because it will help, it will contain an attribute which will help us to identify a row uniquely. Now, after getting candidate key, from the set of candidate key, we are supposed to pick up primary key. Now, what was candidate key in our previous slide? It was, first was we took employee ID. With this, we can take employee name, and we can also take, for example, employee head ID. Or let's take department. We can say this as a set of candidate key. Now, when we remove this, when we had a set of super key, we remove few elements which were extra. That is this. This was our set of candidate key, out of which I can take any of the attribute which will uniquely identify, plus which should not have null value. There should not be any null value, then only I can take it as a primary key. When we see this table, employee ID, every employee in a company will have an employee ID. So we can take. Why we can't take other attributes? We can't take employee name because primary keys, other rule is that it should not be duplicate. So we can't take employee name because we can have employees who can have the same name. Even when we are talking about department, we can have multiple employees working in same department, as we have in this Isha, Neha and Abhishek. They are working in same department. Contact number can only be taken as primary key if and only if it is not null. Because mostly all will have a different contact number. Same way with the email ID, it can also be taken as primary key only and only if it's not null. And employee head cannot be primary key because more than one employee can report to one head. So in this, according to this table, what primary key we can have? We can have primary key as employee ID because it can be it has to be not null and it has to be unique. These are the main constraints for the key to be primary. So, no two rows can have the same primary key value. We don't have any rows which can have same primary key values. Every row must have a primary key value. Means it should not be null. It cannot be null. And it is very less chances that we are updating or modifying the primary key. We should not for a better database. Next comes the alternate key. Other than all the keys from the set of primary key, after candidate key we got primary key, and from primary key all the keys which are remaining in the set of primary key which we have not chosen, like we have employee ID plus say we have employee name, or we can say we have employee head, only and only if it is not null and it is unique. For example, if we have two of these which are eligible for being primary key, then once I take employee ID as primary key, then other remaining will be my alternate keys. Please make sure employee head will only be eligible for being alternate key only and only if it does not have null value as well as it has all the values unique. Keys other than primary key will be my alternate keys. Next come composite key. Now composite key, when I have more than one attribute which are forming my key, then it will be composite key. Like I can say this as a composite key because it has employee ID plus employee name. For example, if employee name is getting repeated, then my employee ID will help me to find out which row is unique. Then composite key is combination of keys. Lastly, we have before that we have foreign key. Foreign key is a key which identifies, which connects two tables. Like for example, we are talking about a relational table, relational database in which there should be relation between two tables. And for having a relation between two tables, there must be any attribute which is common between them. Here we have department ID, and this should be primary key of employee department table. Department ID has to be primary key of this table. Which table? It is employee department. Now this can be used as key here, normal attribute, when we are talking about employee table. The condition is, now these values which are existing here, that can only be used here. If I want to add E105, it will not allow me to add because it is not existing in the parent table, that is employee department. If I want to try, I can't try, and this problem is known as referential integrity. If at all I want to add this here, first I have to, sorry, it will be 106 because 105 we are already using it, so we can use it here. 106 if I want to use, then I have to use it first here, and then only I can use it in this table. This is concept of foreign key. Then we have one more key, that is unique key. We have unique key. Unique key is very much similar to primary key, only the difference is unique key can have null values in it. It will uniquely identify, but it can have null values in it. Now let's take the overview of all the keys we have seen today. First is super key, which uniquely identifies a record, and it is again a set of keys. Second is candidate key, which is minimal set of super key. Out of that, we take out primary key, and primary key's constraint are it should be not null and it should be unique. After primary key is taken out from the set of candidate key, rest remaining of the keys will be our alternate key. Foreign key is helpful when we have to link two tables. Composite key, it is combination of attributes, and lastly we have unique key, which uniquely identifies but can have null values. Thank you so much.